I just want to tell you a story. So years ago, I was very fortunate. Worked in the technology business before it became popular, back in the mid '80s. So everything was growing, and I was lucky to have a mentor who liked me, and he moved me up through the ranks, and we went from 15 million to 1.5 billion dollars in revenue, and that's in 1980. So now it would be a little bit more. And like I said, I was lucky. So every once in a while, we had our office down around Broadway, and I would walk down for lunch, and I would get lunch, a hot dog, and I would sit on the steps of the New York Public Library. Has anybody been to New York and been to the New York Public Library? All right. So you know what that is. It is a wonderful building. You sit there, there's thousands of people walking by, and I'm sitting there one day, and I'm on one of those little luggable phones. So I thought I was really cool, right? Because I had one of those luggable phones with the batteries that plugged into your car, and then you took it out. Well, so I'm on the phone, and there's an old guy sitting next to me, and I've seen him before because I go out the same day. Every Tuesday, I go out for lunch and sit there on the steps and just relax. And one day he heard me on the phone, and he said, "You know, you're chasing the wrong thing." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're chasing the wrong thing." I said, "Tell me." He goes, "You're chasing money." He goes, "No matter how much money you have, and no matter how much you get, you're going to want more." He goes, "It's great having things, but you don't want to chase it. You want to do different things, and then it will come to you." Now, a lot of hard work, like we said earlier. So I figured the guy was nice, and literally for 2 years, I go to the library, and most of the time, he was there. And I would have problems with salespeople. We had, 150 salespeople, managers that I work with, and we ran advertising, marketing, direct mail. So the people in the print business, you know what I'm talking about. We had a coordinate. So he would hear me on the phone, and after a while, I realized this guy was pretty good. So I would bring different issues, and we would discuss it. And then one day he didn't show up, and the next week he didn't show up, and the next week he didn't show up. I figured, okay, he was an older guy. He got tired of coming in. I got an email, not an email, I got a letter. See how I'm thinking emails. I got a letter one day at my office, and it was from an attorney. He passed away. So they invited me to his funeral where he had his will reading, right? I said, okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe he left me something. I mean, he was on the steps. He was always carrying a bag of lunch, but you never know. He left me a note. And this is what he said. He said, "Mark, you got to fear nothing, appreciate everything, and know what you need you already have." Because we talked a lot about spirituality. So that's one of the things I put in my book, and I said, oh, okay, good. And then when they went on to read the rest of the will, his kids were there, cousins, nephews. He was worth $100 million. And he left nobody any money. He left everybody wisdom, he says. And he donated that $100 million to various nonprofits. And when he put in there, it was before the videos but he put in there that he donated to nonprofits because if you don't earn the money ends up hurting you. There's a concept in many spiritual areas called the bread of shame, which is when you get something that you didn't earn. So we've used that. And then I used to talk to him about his ideas and said, hey, you should get up there and present this. You want to come in and speak? And he always said to me, he goes, Mark, the time is not right. Because remember, this is the 80s, right? So this is during the time of, Lehman Brothers, everybody after money, and everybody, everything about success was what car you drove, how big a house you had. Everything was about materialism. He says, it's not ready yet. He says, this won't be ready for about 30 years. And here we are today, 30 years later. So I'm going to bring some of that wisdom that he used to teach me and we used to talk about. And it was, he coined the term entrepreneurial superstars. Because he said, hey, what you really have are entrepreneurial superstars. And this is the day when everybody was starting 30 businesses and they called themselves entrepreneurs. He said, that's not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs don't have 30 businesses. Entrepreneurs find something, they find what they like, they do it, they put their heart and soul into it, and they do make money, but they understand the balance of life with their families and everything else. So that's the true success. So entrepreneurial superstars, if you notice that saying, like I said, I have it in my book, and it's on the coffee cup I drink every day, and it's something that is very easy to say, very hard to live. Because when you're in your day-to-day environment and the bills come due, it's very hard not to fear anything. As a cancer survivor, you would think I'd be able to have it a little easier, right? No. It's still hard. So if you find yourself getting up every day and saying, hey, I have the motivation, I listen to the affirmations, that's great, but I'm failing because I'm not living it, don't. It takes years. It takes continuous reinforcement. you're a programmer, so in the technology business, we call it continuous improvement, right? You're always looking to transform, to improve a process that we design. I'll talk more about that later because that's some of my background. Next. Okay, there we go. So, I'm sorry. Yeah. What is your approach? Everybody comes out and we all want to do things. You're going to hear a lot of great information about setting goals, which is great, and about how you have to go out and you have to manage your time, and I think that's all super. But the problem is, have we set our approach yet? So another one of the things that Samuel, his name was Samuel. I used to call him Sam, and he says, no, it's Samuel. I said, okay, what makes you happy? So he told me, you got to be smart. Now, SMART is an acronym used in a lot of time management. You've all probably heard it if you go into time management. And I said, oh, I heard of that before. He goes, no. The approach you need to take has to be systemic. Can it spread through your whole organization, the whole being of who you are? Is it measurable? Not just with KPIs and quantitatively. Is it measurable qualitatively? And then, is it alignable, not just to your goals? Is it alignable to the people you work with, whether it be a corporation or whether it be your own business? And we're in sales, we're really entrepreneurs, even though we work for a company. So it applies both ways. So is it alignable to what the people who we work for, the company, our clients? And then is it relatable to us? How does it relate to us? Is your approach, you want to go out and do this, how does it relate to when you go to synagogue, church, the mosque, the temple, anything? How does it relate to your life, the baseball, basketball, your kids, what you want? How does it relate? And then, of course, is it tailorable? Is it tailorable? Anything that's written down usually gets taken as gospel. Once it's written down, you feel you can't change it. That's not true. So is it tailorable? We have to adapt. We have to adjust. Life is about adjusting. And it's hard for a lot of us who start out with a very strict way of doing things to be able to make that change. We all say we're open to change. But when you look at your approach and you run through the SMART platform, we call it, is it really that way? Now, I've done this a lot when we design software applications for companies. And when you have business analysts, we apply the SMART platform to technology, to leadership, to sales, to business. And if you put it through that filter, you'll see it really makes a difference. Not easy, but it makes a difference. And then, of course, there's experiential learning. You're going to learn a lot today. What's really neat is that you're going to have a lot of workshops. We're going to get you involved. We're going to get you moving around. We're going to get you talking to each other. We're going to want you to walk out, not just having notes on a pad. We're going to want you walking out with information and techniques on what you're going to do when you leave. That's why we did the introductions in the morning about everybody working together. And we call it experiential learning. So we've actually, at the Entrepreneur Way Consulting Group, which partners with Champion Mindset, we've done a survey of over 200 business leaders and entrepreneurs. And we found certain traits, certain attributes that are common in both. So we want to go into those now. And you can go past that because this is talking about, there we go. So we have 7 attitudes. Now, we all say we want to keep a positive attitude. We want to have an attitude of success. But what does that mean? So what we found is activities must be beneficial for all involved. One of the attitudes when you go in as an entrepreneur to be a superstar is what I'm doing beneficial to everybody I'm working with. See, the comparison obsession, how we compare to others, stack rankings, has always worked as a negative. So now, it motivates those at the top, and those at the bottom give up and they say, well, that's good. No, it's not. What you want to compare yourself to is yourself, not other people. How are you doing? Are you doing better? Are your stack rankings improving over your activities over what you did last month? That's what it is. So you have to look at your activities and make sure they're beneficial for everybody involved. We call it living a mutual benefit philosophy. Then you have to look, what should we should not make money at the expense of our customers. Well, this is something everybody says, why? There's a routine out there or a concept called value pricing. If a customer is going to save $1 million, I should charge $200,000. right? If they're going to save so much, then I should do it. No. Figure out what a fair price is for your product or services. Figure out what a fair price is for selling that house. I know everyone wants to negotiate the commissions and everything. Figure what's fair. And then even if they save money, even if they get a great deal, that's okay. Okay? You don't have to make money at the expense of others. Those who do read different types of scripture will know it's all throughout the scripture. It says the same thing, but we forget to live that outside of where we go for our spirituality. Then it says, look for lifetime value. Now, so I may have done a great deal. I'm selling a water treatment system to somebody. I got a good price. I got a high margin, and it's a great deal. And we all talk about wanting referrals. But it may have been a deal that they're going to talk to somebody else in another neighborhood and find out they pay 20% more. Now you just lost that customer and anybody they talk to. If you deal with people fairly, they'll know it when you present, when you talk, when you do your business. It's not about getting over on somebody or making more from everybody. Figure out what's fair, figure out what you need, and that's what you should sell. If you go below that, that's going to hurt you, right? Sometimes we do because we need the cash flow. But you know how we feel when that happens. The other thing we have to do is don't look down on others. I know you go to a lot of seminars and they're saying people come in, they fly in on helicopters and they talk about their big houses and they come in their Rolls Royces. Well, if you know the history of many of these speakers, they were rented. They make you look down on other people. They make you say, I'm better and I'm going to be better. I don't want to listen to this person because they don't have as much money as I have. Well, how about the person that has the life? They coach their kids' baseball team and they have money. See, no one says you shouldn't make a lot of money. But no one is going to say on your deathbed, hey, that guy was a great guy, he had a lot of money. You know? And if that's what you want to leave behind, then fine. But think about, don't look down on others. So I was just driving over here the other day, this morning, and I saw a guy and he's asking for money. And I understand some of them will go off and rip people off and some don't. But it's really not for me to judge. I'm very fortunate that I have. So if I have $1 and I have the time, I give it to them. What they spend it on, what they do with it is not mine. You don't have to. I'm just saying, don't look down on others. And that's what stack rankings do. That's what comparison obsession does. And entrepreneurial superstars don't do that. Because the person who's on bottom today, let me give you an example of one of my clients in the copier business. Guy was number 1 in the country. Oh my God, you're great, you're great. 6 months later, he's number 90 out of 90. Oh my God, he's terrible. You got to put him on plan. Really? Really? See, you can't look at this person and say, oh, he's not doing his job. Or look down on people who are not there. It's all about the situation. Things happen. So compare yourself to yourself, not others, and you'll be a lot happier. Then we have, it behooves us to help others achieve their goals. Why? Anybody know why it behooves you to help others achieve their goals? They win, you win, even if it doesn't involve you at the time. If it makes you feel good to help somebody else achieve their goal, and you feel good, and then you go about your day, it's going to come back to you. Whether we call it karma, whether we call it the universe, whether we call it, however you feel about it, when you help others achieve their goals, you will achieve your goals and you'll feel better about it. And while you're building, while you're making your millions, and while you're out there buying the cars, which is fine, if you help others, you're going to feel great about it. And then another attribute that we found is that no conflict is insurmountable unless it's based on greed and ego. Now, let's talk about this one. You have a bad day. Someone's buying a house, all of a sudden the loan kicks out. That's a lot of stress, right? I mean, you're upset. That's conflict, and you feel it may be insurmountable. Something may have happened in their life. They may not have been lying to you. Maybe they were. But unless that person was doing it just to try to get over on you or to waste your time, try to have the empathy, understand that sometimes things happen. And it's not a personal affront to you. So when you do things and you find your arguments, unlike baseball and politics, right? When you have arguments and it's based on greed and ego, You know you have a problem that you may be insurmountable. But there's a philosophy around that. When you see that greed and that ego in the other person, many philosophies teach us that what we're really seeing is a reflection of ourselves. So, when we see that greed and ego and we're not willing to work within that realm and work with that person and be able to help them or tell them straight out, it seems like you're just being greedy. I mean, I'm sorry. Hey, we're not going to be able to overcome this because your ego. But wait a second, maybe my ego. So you'll see later on, accountability, self-accountability. When we look at others and we see negativity, it's usually the negativity that's within us that we may not be willing to understand or acknowledge we have. So just think of that whenever you have a problem with somebody. If it's insurmountable because of greed and ego, you have to let your ego down. You have to look at yourself and ask, is there a way? There may not be. But ask yourself, am I being that way? Is it something I can do to help change the situation? That's one of the attributes we found of successful entrepreneurs and superstar salespeople and business people. And then, of course, it's understood that there's no pure altruism in this world. I wish I can say that I'm standing up here and I just want to espouse wisdom and I live in out in the woods and I don't, need anybody. I'm a prepper and I just live off the land and I don't need money. No, that's not the case. Okay? We all have our personal needs. If there was true altruism, if anybody stood up there and they were truly 100% altruistic, we'd be praying to them instead of talking to them, okay? So that doesn't exist right now. So understand that we are out to make money. We are out to have things. It's okay. It's okay. As long as we incorporate and we blend it with these other traits. Does that make sense? So, yes, you want to have money. People think, oh, Mark, then why do you have a new house? We just bought a house in Savannah, opened up an office there. Oh, well, you should give it away, let people live there, don't have homes. Once again, if I was perfect, you'd be praying to me instead of talking to me, right? So I'm not perfect. And we acknowledge that. So we try to get better. But at least I'm there. At least we acknowledge that there is no 100% true altruism in this world. And once you do that, you'll stop thinking you're better than others. You'll stop comparing yourself to others. And you'll stop looking down on others. See how it all ties in? It's all part of a system. Okay, now we're going to go on. If you got that. Wait. Go ahead, you can take the picture. So while we're doing that, it is definitely part of system theory. Anybody know system theory? While she's taking the picture. System theory is a biological concept where one organ affects the other. And if one organ shuts down, that's why we have people that are diabetics or have a problem with cancer and everything. One organ shuts down, it affects the whole body. Everything has to work together. These attributes have to work together. Everything we do has to work together. When one of them is sick, then everything it starts going bad. And we'll talk about that in business process at later times. Now, here's the attributes that allow you to achieve this personality we're talking about. It's very hard to have that attitude. Now, attributes, what's an attribute? It's something in the way we are. But it's also a filter. Attributes could be considered filters. We get a lot of input throughout the day, throughout our life. And then we run it through our life, our history, our experience. And these attributes are what are the filters to be able to process the data. Because if all this data came at us, we wouldn't be able to really understand it. Very much like your phone. Think about how much information is in the waves right now, in the air. But without that phone, you can't take that data, because it's all being transmitted right now. Everything you're doing is being transmitted. We just have to have a vehicle, a way, to be able to take that data, transform it to something that we can understand. And that's what attributes do. These 5 attributes that we found from these successful entrepreneurs and salespeople. And we don't differentiate salespeople from entrepreneurs, because let's face it, you do the same thing. Some want to risk their own money, some don't. Doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. So, self-motivation. It is nice that you're here. You have to be self-motivated. Many of us turn towards our partners, spouses, friends, family. That's great. You can have, and we run think tanks, mastermind sessions. We do all that. So yes, you get that energy from a group. But if you're not self-motivated, it's not going to happen. Now, self-motivated is not fanatical. It doesn't mean you have to go off and be crazy about what you do. It doesn't mean you have to live it 100% of the time. It's motivation in what you want to achieve, what your approach is, how you want to live your life. Now, you go into self-management. You're going to learn some time management techniques. Years ago, time management was real big. Now I do work in corporate America, and for some reason, time management fell through the wayside. They don't do time management anymore. They want the salespeople to do more with less. They want the operations people to process more. They want to implement AI, artificial intelligence, so they can get more done. But they don't have the training in time management anymore. Why? I haven't figured it out. It seems like we don't want to train the way we used to, or maybe we're not self-motivated enough in corporate America. Or maybe the times have been so good the past 30 years that we haven't had to. These are some of the things that we're finding. So self-management, can you get up? But self-management is not just in doing your job. Self-management is in spending time with your spouse, your partner, your kids, your family. They used to say quality time is better than quantity time. We found that not to be the case now. That's why you have parental leave. That's why you have maternity leave for fathers as well as mothers. We are finding, and there's been studies that just came out that show that when you work 35 hours or 4 days a week versus 5, you're much more productive and you're much happier. So I'm not telling you not to work what you want to do, the hours you want to work. What I'm telling you is manage your time, manage your life, manage everything that you do yourself. Make sure you understand how you're managing it. So that's another screen, another attribute. As this data comes to you, well, and you have all these inputs, all right, well, how am I managing my time? How am I managing my life? So it's another one of those filters. Then you have self-awareness. Well, that's a tough one. Everybody always says to me, well, Mark, you're only as young as you feel. Everybody hear that? My answer to them is, say that when you're standing in front of a full-length mirror naked. You'll know how old you are. Believe me, those of us who are old know how old we are, okay? So you have to be aware. Why do we have mirrors? So it's a reflection. You want to see what others see. You need to be aware of what you're doing. Am I being greedy? Am I in these discussions because of my ego? Am I looking at this person? Am I judging them? Am I looking down on them? Am I making them feel bad by saying I'm better? Am I talking about what I have to try to get them to have what I have so that I can get their money so that they can have what I have, but it means I want to have more of what I have? Does that make sense? Make sure that what you're doing and the people you listen to have a mutual benefit philosophy. It's okay for them to make, but not at your expense to put you down and make you feel worse so that you then have to belong. You know what I'm saying? Make sure it's positive. Make sure it's something where you feel that everybody's out to help everybody. So we're going right back to those, attributes and attitudes. So that's self-awareness. We call it mightiness. When we do consulting, we want to have mightiness. You want to feel empowered. People always say in corporate America, I'm empowering you to do this. You know what that means? I don't want to be responsible. I'm putting all that weight on you. Those who've been there know it. And it's your responsibility. If it works, I'm going to take credit for empowering you. And if it fails, well, I empowered you. It's your fault. They don't want to coach. They don't want to help. So it's not empowerment in that way. It is mightiness. You need to feel good. You need to feel healthy. You need to feel that you have some input and some control over your life. That's mightiness. Then we have wakefulness. Well, what is wakefulness? Self-awareness, like we said, is seeing your reflection, being aware of who you are. Wakefulness is using that awareness. Remember we said screens. You go from one level to another. The data comes down through these filters, and it allows you to understand the information you're receiving. So when you look in that mirror and you see yourself, now it's okay, hey, I see where I'm at. I know what I have to do. I understand whether it's diet, whether it's exercise, whether it's go out there and be more positive, whether it's to be, happier, to not look down on people, to not let the stack rankings get to me. That's what you're going to be aware of. But now you have to be wakeful. You have to let it in and say, okay, I'm aware of what's around me. Don't walk with your head down. I mean, unless you have to because you don't want to fall. I got it. But walk and look around and live life when you're looking around you, right? You have to be wakeful to what's happening. Accept the inputs. understand the feng shui, which is that sense, that energy that's around us that we can't see. And if people don't believe, it's okay. However, you believe God'll, right? Google, which is our phone. You believe God'll. You don't know where it comes from. Most of us can't explain how it works, but we believe it. It comes out of the air. Why not feng shui? Why not an ancient philosophy that allows us to tap into an energy force we may not be able to see, but your phone proves it may work? Be wakeful to what's around you, to new ideas, new opportunities. Don't just do what we've always done. You all know doing the same thing over and over again, definition of insanity. I say it's a definition of being sleepful instead of wakeful. I make my own words up, like finger pointerosis, which is another concept. So, interconnectiveness, that's another word I made up. What is interconnectiveness? You see how it all filters through now. So now you're aware. Now you see what's coming down. You see what's around you. You're awake to it. Now you have to realize we're all connected. We've all watched movies like Fifth Element. We've all seen different shows that show how everything is connected. Everything. 6 levels from whatever his name is and all that kind of stuff. Everything is connected. The energy of the world is definitely around us. But could we see it? Maybe not. Maybe we're not that wakeful yet. I know I'm not. I'm still working on it, all right? But interconnectiveness. Look. But if you don't look, if you're not aware, if you're not wakeful to how you're connected to everybody else, how does what you do, if you go off and put in bad paperwork to the mortgage person, how does that make them feel? How does that rework make them feel? When you go in and put in a water softener to a house, and it doesn't work right, how does that make them feel? What does that happen with the person who had to install it? How does that make them come back? What's it do to that installer's life if they have to come back because all of a sudden they had their granddaughter's game or something or that they can't see? Understand how you're interconnected to everybody else. And understand how what you do affects others. See, ties back into mutual benefit, ties back into wakefulness, ties back into, everything we're talking about. It's so that we can understand all of the information around us and use it to become entrepreneurial superstars. Then we have mightiness, which we talked about earlier. All right, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Mightiness, you have to feel like you have some power. You have the ability to make things happen. You also have the ability to cause negativity in other people. You have the mightiness, the ability to cause positiveness. You have the ability to look at somebody and to help them achieve their goals. You see, it all ties in. And that mightiness is on the bottom because that's what interfaces and integrates directly with us in our physical world. The feeling of mightiness. If you feel beaten, if you feel like in many corporations that you are a slave to the corporation, that is your essence, then you will not be mighty and the people around you will be affected by it. So let's talk about the components of entrepreneurial superstars. So we covered attributes, covered attitudes. Now let's look at the components of an entrepreneurial superstar. You got to build your business, your life, on a smart platform, which we said earlier. Systemic, measurable, alignable, relatable, and tailorable. It's a platform. It's a platform. It's what other things are built on. It's not to take the place of your philosophy in life or anything. It's just to be a platform, a filter. Then you have to live a mutual benefit philosophy. You can have the smart platform if you don't wrap it in a mutual benefit philosophy and you don't understand the concept of system theory, how one thing affects another. If one is not working, in corporate America, we say this all the time. When you develop programs, if one of those programs is not working, or one of those segments of that program is not working, the whole program may not work. Same with our life. And then remember those 7 attributes. And if anybody forgets, my cards are back. You can email me and I'll send them out to you. It's not, it's not some kind of proprietary stuff you can't have. And then eliminate comparison obsession. This is a big one. This is a big one. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself. Don't look at that house and say, hey, I want to have that house because they have it. Say, you know what? I want to have that house because I want to be able to have my kids in it. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's fine. It's okay to want. It's just not okay to need unless you don't have enough food. So, comparison obsession. Keep on thinking about comparison obsession. Don't compare yourself to a point where it makes you feel crazed. Oh, well, my car's not as big as theirs. My house is not as good as theirs. My lawn is not as green as theirs. I mean, every day we go through this, right? It's absolutely insane. When I was growing up in the 60s, we rebelled against this and leave it to Beaver and that concept. And then we became worse than the people we rebelled against. We became more obsessed with this. And we drove our kids crazy. Well, now it's time to make that change. And I believe the millennials, the next generation, are doing what we talked about. They're living it. They're starting to make that change, and that's great that they're doing that. And then we have to use technology to maximize our marketing and profit. How many people here use email marketing? Okay. If you want to get out to people, if you're not using email marketing, or if you're not using a database, if you're not using technology to make your life easier and still reach the people. Now, don't overuse technology, because look at our phones, how many times we can't even, I saw an advertisement yesterday for putting your phone down when you eat, really. It's amazing how connected we are. So there's good and bad, but use technology like email marketing, database management, CRMs, to be able to make your life easier, to be able to do more of what you have to do. And we talk about that in other coaching and seminars and lectures that we do. It's a whole different, or a whole nother track. Maintain the 5 attributes of the entrepreneur. Once again, email me. My card's written back. It's Mark, M-A-R-C, at entrepreneurialway.net. It's easy to get the card because spelling that's a bear, okay? So, and then utilize creative destructionism. Anybody ever do that? Creative destructionism. So if we don't tear down what we currently do, then how are we ever going to transform? Now, do you actually have to go out there and burn your car and destroy your house and say, I'm not using this book anymore, or I'm no longer listening to my boss? No. Creative destructionism happens within a room. We do brainstorming, we do mind mapping, we do thought leadership pods to be able to talk about what we can destroy without destroying our life, of course. But sometimes you have to tear things down to rebuild it. Have you ever heard the concept that when someone breaks their leg and it gets fixed, that the bone is stronger than when they first had it without the break? That's creative destruction. I'm not saying to go break your bones. What I'm saying is we need to break what we do. We need to break our routine. And then, we have to have at least an idea. So creative destructionism starts with a mind map, a concept of what's in all our thoughts. And then we look and we say, what can we break? What can we do? What can we change? What do we need to keep the same, and then do that later? It's all about planning. But use creative destructionism. It is an amazing concept. You can start off just by thinking of the word, what it means, and you can just start playing with it. It just makes you feel phenomenal that you're breaking something and then you're going to fix it even better. And then what you want to do is stop doing the same thing as before. That's exactly what creative destructionism says, right? Stop doing what you're doing. Try it. You may say, hey, you know what? For next week, I'm going to make. I hate cold calls, let's say. I happen to like cold calls. I like talking to people, obviously. But you may hate cold calls. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to destroy my concept just going out there and going to the chamber and meeting people and doing things that I normally do. I'm going to sit on the phone for 3 days. And I'm going to make phone calls. Wow. I didn't think you meant that, Mark, because that's pretty tough. Creative destruction is not doing anything always what you like. It's doing things different. Tear down what you're doing. Hey, how about sending out regular mail with a handwritten envelope? That's creative destructionism in this world. Because very few people are getting mail nowadays. And I did start out as a direct mail copywriter, so that is something that's near and dear to me. However, we're finding that emails are not getting opened as much when people send out a handwritten letter. I have my wife address it because her handwriting is neat, mine is not. And people, men and women, have been shown they do open letters that are written with a female handwriting more than a male, okay? It's just the way it is. So I'm fighting for equality in direct mail with open men as much as women, but, you know, it is what it is. And then gather and use collective wisdom. Anybody know what collective wisdom is? You're going to find out right now. So what we're going to do, collective wisdom is information from around you. Remember what we talked about, is that don't look down on people. If you don't look down on people, then you can take the input from them without judging about what their life is or hasn't been, like I did originally with Samuel, okay? That's collective wisdom by using his knowledge to now present his information to you today, right? And then also gathering the information. So listen to what people around you. For example, and I keep on going back to the programmer, because the programmer thinks logically and they think sequentially, but they think about all of the different variations and deviations in a process that are going to trigger and how one thing affects another. We can learn from somebody. Oh, well, I'm creative. I don't do that. Let me tell you, you cannot be creative without a base structure. So you have to have a base foundation before you can be creative. Otherwise, you have chaos versus creativity. So now, what we're going to do in our next slide, I'm going to ask everybody, it's the technology work. Let's skip this one. I'll come back to that because we didn't talk much about it. So let's talk about the attributes. I'm going to put them back up on the screen in a second. What I'd like you to do is a group of 4, 5, 6, just turn and work with each other. And what we want to do is make a list of which attributes are most important to you and your business. And then from the team, select 3 of the most common and discuss how they positively can affect the team. Whether you've done it or not makes no difference. How do you think? You see what we're doing with collective wisdom. Some people call it team building. Some people call it workshopping. It's all the same. It's collective wisdom of what's out there. We're listening to Walt Disney from the previous speaker. We're hearing from different people. Collective wisdom. If you are awake, if you have wakefulness, you can tap into the collective wisdom. So let's get together. Let's not judge. Let's just go meet. If you want to get up and walk to different people, because there may be a lot of real estate people, you want to go walk over and meet somebody, that's great. So let's just take about 5 minutes, and we're just going to go through this quickly, and we're going to put the attributes back up and just select the 3 most common. So what we're going to do now is one person from the group who's not worried about public speaking, just come up here and then give us those 3 attributes that they felt were most important and how they used it. We want to keep it to about a minute to a minute and a half because we have about 4 or 5 groups, and that would just about put us where we got to be. So who wants to go first? I'm looking at you. So you want to come up and do that? And you can give us, of course, if you're going to be speaking, you might as well give us your name and what company you are, and then give us the attributes and why.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Gina. Hi. I am currently creating my own company. It's a community where I am building a tribe of spirit warriors and helping people learn, heal, and grow through the benefits of learning from one another. So I feel it's very important to have attributes such as self-awareness, which is what I feel is most important, so that this way once you're aware that this is what I want to do, this is what's stopping me from doing it, and this is what I must do to overcome it. Self-awareness will allow us to move forward into the next level, and having self-motivation to do so, and interconnectedness, so that this way we are connecting with people who are like-minded and have similar goals as us, which can help and support one another to reach those goals and create the business that you would like to create. So those are the 3 things that I feel are very important attributes in creating a company or a business. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, everybody. My name is Lindy Eldridge, and I am your Chief Happiness Officer. And I am the founder and the CEO of the Happiness Jungle. And everything that you shared this morning is so spot on. And what I practice and what I preach and how I live my life is live life on purpose and on point. And realize that everything that's happening in your life has purpose, good, bad, or the ugly. Just ponder it, pause, relax, and if you need any help figuring it out, you could always contact your Chief Happiness Officer of the Happiness Jungle. Mark, thank you so much. Well, it's all of them. It truly is. It's just all of them combined. So I can't pick one specifically because they're all a part of our lives. And time management, which you said is one of the weakest of what people don't practice, is one of the most important. One of the most important. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Levine. I introduced myself earlier. I'm representing our group of 4 in the corner. We had self-motivation and self-management kind of combined together as one. So we actually have 4. Self-motivation, self-management, you need to, but number 1 was self-awareness. With self-awareness, you then can know if you're managing your time, if you're being motivated, And interconnectedness, we're not an island living alone. We need to be connected to other people, be able to help others in order to help ourselves, in order to help others.
Our group had the attributes of
Was there any more?
self-motivation,
Was there another group in back, I think? There we go.
interconnectedness,
And then we'll have
and
you go.
wakefulness. And I'd like to bring up Miss Hindi because she was a great partner in ensuring that we had a full view on the decisions that we were making. And being that you'll hear from me later, I figured I'd give her the floor in order to spread some sunshine upon your lives.
And in order, I believe, to get to the point of self-motivation and self-management, self-awareness, interconnectedness, wakefulness, mightiness. The interconnectedness was really important, and who and what are we connecting to? So, if we can connect to the unseen, if we connect to a higher something, then we're open. We're open to be able to use self-motivation. We're open to be able to do self-management, self-awareness, interconnectedness, and mightiness. But if we're not open to receive, if we're not open to be aware, then it's really hard to practice the others.
If we do believe that there is other forces at work, no matter what you call it, then we can understand that it is not us alone. We're just a vehicle. So the reason we're here and the reason we have is to establish that higher authority on earth here, right? And to make it so we share with people. That sounds pretty cool, right? For those who know different things, it's 90-10. So what we talk about, did anybody else not go as far as the groups?
Thank you. I'm Chris with Rainsoft. Thank you. We felt the three most important attributes, well, maybe not in any order, but you have to be self-motivated to be able to get out there and attack the world or enjoy the world, if you will. You got to be open to that, obviously, and I think self-motivation is part of that. So did my team. Self-awareness was also that. We have to be aware of really what our intentions are, and we have to be aware of what maybe the people in front of us need and want, and try to drive to our understanding how we can serve them and make them feel better. But you can't do that without self-awareness. If you're aware that you're going after it for you and not for them, you're probably not going to be successful. So that leads into the last thing, which is interconnected. You can't get a collaboration if you're not communicating, if you're not on the same wavelength. One of the people I listen to that helps me spiritually, if you will, is that you can't listen to the rock station 105.9 if your tuner is set to 100.2. You got to be on the same wavelength to really communicate with the people that are in front of you. So reaching out and understand that interconnectedness combined with self-awareness and self-motivation helps get that done. That was our three. Thank you.
I'm going to bring something up that's called mind mapping. Everybody ever hear of it? Mind mapping? Okay, so we'll work with Champion Mindset and we'll put together a mind mapping workshop. We do it a little differently because the mind mapping normally takes one concept and builds off of it and has it grow. But the mind mapping that we've been using for about 25 years now is a way to do a full dump of everything that you're thinking, doing, and you just all the things associated with how you live and work. And then we show all the interconnectedness of what's connected to what and to whom and how that works. And then you sit back and you come up with an action plan. So that's something that we'll do. I didn't plan on bringing this up, but since the interconnectedness and the awareness, because it's very hard to be aware if you cannot be honest. And sometimes when we're aware of something, we forget to mention something. Oh, I should have mentioned that. Or, oh, yeah, I'm this. But when we do the mind map and we throw it up on the board and then we sit back, it's cathartic. It's an amazing process. And when you see what the map looks like, you can imagine what your mind is going through every moment. So you know there's confusion. We used to talk about it as eliminating mind clutter, which is what we're talking about, being focused. So now we have how much time? We got about 10 minutes, right, till 10:30? 10:30. So let's do one more quick exercise. Next one. And what we're going to do here, and we'll do it, we got to stick to the 5 minutes. And then we got to come up and only take a minute each because there's 5 groups so we can get the next speaker on and we can meet our requirements and I don't go over. Next one. The third exercise. Not that one. Not that one. All right, now we're going to talk about thinking outside the box. When I mentioned destructive, creative destructionism, it was something that people said, wow, I wonder how that works. So what I'd like you to do is the same groups or you can switch groups. I don't care. This is your self-management. You go where you want to go. I'd like you to talk about how destroying something you're currently doing that's not hurting anybody, you don't want to hurt someone, you destroy it, but how you can destroy something you're doing now and what you could do to rebuild it. So here's what I suggest. You each talk about it, then you pick one that we can come up here in 1 minute and just give an overview. Okay? So talk about how it works in your life, then pick one, pick the person who's going to come up from the group and talk about what you're going to tear down, what you're going to destroy, and how you're going to rebuild it to make it even stronger in 60 seconds. So we got 5 minutes to do this. Let's go back and get the groups, and let's get started again.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Will Fix, and just like it sounds, yes. And our problem is what we discuss most in our group is procrastination, and I'm one of people who get distracted so easily, and so that's what we discuss between us: procrastination, ego. So this is something that's in our last session I mentioned you can get in the way of your own blessings by wasting time on stuff you don't need to. So that's my big project right now, to be self-aware and get. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Anyway, I didn't. I'm from Rensof. I see some of my fellow here. So enjoy your time. I already learned a lot from the hour I've been here. So we're going to have fun.
So since everybody's asking about focus and concentration, besides the mind mapping, let me give you something. RTS. RTS. And a lot of people say they have ADD. ADD is not, well, in many cases it is. ADHD, it could be dangerous. However, think of when someone tells you can't focus, you tell them this. No, I have RTS, rapid thought switching. It's an advanced form of thinking. I just haven't perfected it yet. And our minds are 100 times faster and more capable than any computer system out there. And the way computers work is they have parallel processing going on. So they have multiple processes happening simultaneously, and then when you hit a button, it brings up that process or it initiates that process. That's called rapid thought switching in the human mind. Another term I made up because they wanted to give my now 34-year-old son, who's doing very well, they wanted to give him drugs. And I said, no, it's not ADD, it's RTS. So we avoided that. So remember, you got to focus. No, it's rapid thought switching, but you got to get better at it so you can bring the right thought up at the right time, because then we'll talk about stream of consciousness thinking one day. But we do a whole workshop on rapid thought switching. Next.
Thinking outside the box. For me, it's a common term. We hear it all over the place. My dad's a business leader, and he uses it. I cannot say that because to me, it's literally being creative. So to be creative is to think outside the box. It's just my own word. It's an action word for me. So some of the things our group came up with were time management, and some of us wanted to improve it. So some people one individual felt that if she could physically be ready, she could begin her day. I thought that was great. Self-motivation was a word that came up. And a morning regimen. One individual thought that helps her, and I think that could help a lot of people. And I actually heard someone say that the regimen was to change up the order of the regimen. So I heard that from another person a while back. I'll share, to end, I'll share one thing that I did personally. Within a minute, I figured out how to change a lifetime bad habit that I had to change. I realized I was getting a creative benefit from it. I was learning information, but I realized it was a bad habit. And I said to myself, within a minute, I said, no matter the reward, no matter the creative benefit, it is never worth it. Now, the experts are going to tell me, hey, it takes 45 days for your subconscious to change a habit. And I'm like, I don't care. So my subconscious kept dragging me back to this bad habit. And I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. And then I was at peace of mind because I didn't care that my subconscious was saying, hey, let's go back here. It's time. It didn't bother me. I'm like, it could take a year. I'm done with that behavior. And I did that within a minute. Anyway, thank you very much.
What we decided is that deconstructionism in our business is that we tend to be reliant on the company bringing us the prospects and the opportunities to us, and we wait for the phone to ring, and then they give us the opportunity, and off we go. Well, we decided that what we should really be doing is making our own lead generation, our own prospecting, the first thing in our mind, not waiting for the phone to ring from the company, but us to pick up the phone or do some activity, mailings, direct mail, internet, texting, to generate our own activity and let the company's leads fill in as a bonus, not as the basis of how we get our sales.
So I want to thank everybody really for participating. I'm going to be around during lunch. All the speakers will be around during lunch so we can really get to know everybody. You can really participate a little further and get deeper and all that stuff. And then you're going to have some great speakers coming up as well. So I look forward to the rest of the day, and I want to thank you for your attention and participation.